All right, welcome AP World History students to your Unit 8 test. This is it. You've made it. This is your last in-class test before you take that AP exam. Now, let's get into it. Some of the questions we talk about is the dissolution of the Soviet Union. While there are a lot of reasons for that, including the arms race between America and the Soviet Union, where basically we outspend them, and this helps lead to collapse of their economy. Mikhail Gorbachev's policies such as perestroika and glasnost, his openness, also help. But probably the one with the most direct impact is actually working class resistance to communist rule, and especially there in Poland, which is kind of a hotbed of Eastern Europe. And I don't think that this is possible without Gorbachev's policies of glasnost and perestroika. They lessen the Communist Party. I mean, this isn't something that could have happened under Stalin or Brezhnev, who were very cruel men. But I think these are the biggest reasons for the dissolution of the Soviet Union. We talk about Jewish migrations and the reasons why. Certainly Hitler and his first policy of immigration for the Jews. But that is something that is aided by the fact that in this time period, other countries are relaxing their policies towards immigrants, especially Polish immigrants and Russian immigrants, which have large numbers of Jews. So that's going to allow, a lot of Jews to leave Europe. Probably, well, we'll move on from that. Let's talk just a little bit about the Treaty of Nanking and comparing it to the Monroe Doctrine. The Treaty of Nanking, these two are kind of opposites of each other. The Treaty of Nanking is basically going to reopen a China that had been in isolationism for a long time, for hundreds of years, and had gotten backwards. The Treaty of Nanking is basically going to make them trade, whereas the Monroe Doctrine is sort of closing down some trading lanes between Europe and the Americas. Basically, America is going to do this under James Monroe, basically saying that America will handle the bulk of the trading in the Western Hemisphere. It's kind of a puffing of the chest for America. Demilitarization in Japan. Remember, immediately following Japan's surrender, we occupy the islands. We try to remake it in our own image with the MacArthur Constitution. Douglas MacArthur is essentially running Japan, and we do, really kind of that's something similar in Germany. We don't own Germany obviously like we do in Japan, but this is going to allow Japan and Germany to really become industrial powerhouses, and later on in the 60s and 70s, Japan and Germany will compete with America as a major global power in trade. Truman Doctrine. We got to understand that the Truman Doctrine, issued by Harry Truman following World War II. This was an aspect of the Cold War where we saw communism as something that had to be contained. And it very simply says that if a country is in need of aid from communism, that all they have to do is call and America will be there. And that's really put to the test first and foremost in Greece and Turkey. And it was a success. We gave hundreds of millions of dollars to those two countries to resist communist guerrilla warfare, and they won. So this was a major win for us early in the Cold War. And there's a lot of Cold War strategies that go on. The United States, in Latin American countries, it doesn't matter if you're a dictator or not. If you're anti-communist, you have our money, you have our backing, you have our support. As for the Soviet Union, you're going to see it close in on itself behind the Iron Curtain. They don't want foreign ideas. That's competition. Letting people into the Soviet Union who have been to other places, they might spread ideas about what the rest of the world's like. So they don't want that. They want to close everything off. And of course, you see the arms race and the space race were huge aspects of the Cold War as well. Proxy wars, using the other countries to fight rather than these two behemoths going at it mano a mano. Total war in World War I. Remember, this is everything. Everything is devoted to the war. The civilians are feeling the pinch of the warfare, even though it's happening thousands of miles away. The businesses are being restructured to create tanks and planes and ships and things of that nature. Um, Socially speaking, there's changes as well. You see migrational patterns. Women are getting jobs that they used to not be able to get. African Americans are moving from the South to the North in America and getting jobs that they had never been able to get before. You have victory gardens. You have rationing. Every aspect of life is about winning the war. Rachel Carson's book on Silent Spring. It's all about environment. It's going to kick off the environmental revolution. Comes out in 1962. And it's just kind of like the book that gets people thinking, we should probably be careful with the environment. It might not be here forever, which means we won't be here forever. Sun Yat-sen, he's a guy that gains power in China very early. And one of the first things that this guy's going to do is he's got to get rid of communists. He doesn't trust communists. Remember that this is before the Chinese Civil War. This is before the communists win over Kai-shek, who comes in after Sun Yat-sen. So for a brief time period here, following the collapse of the Qing dynasty, China will be anti-communist. But as we know, in 1949, they will make the switch to communism. Japan and Germany, both before World War II, are expansionist minded. They're looking to grow empires. They're looking to be militaristic. And when they do get condemnations from the League of Nations, both of these countries end up withdrawing and say, that's fine. We don't have to be in your club. We don't need it. And they go off and do their own thing and become rich and powerful, scary, and start a war. Sub-Saharan independence movements. It's a complex issue, but a pretty simple statement. And the statement goes like this: although there were many roads to independence in Africa, the roads were much easier to independence when there were far less whites. The higher the European population in the African country, the rougher the road was to freedom. Chinese Communist Party, under Mao Zedong, of course. Their brand of communism is going to be a little bit different because they have this enormous peasant population. While all the communists are looking to control agriculture and industry, in China, there's far less industry than there is in the Soviet Union. So peasants, they've really got to worry about them. Marshall Plan. Remember, you got a $13 billion aid plan from America to Europe, although Eastern Europe's not allowed to really take any money from it because of the strings attached. The Russians will set up their own military assistance called Comecon, and they will, they'll try to basically rival the Marshall Plan. It doesn't, of course. And really, the Marshall Plan can give this technology from the West that Stalin simply doesn't possess. So there's going to be a lot better tools of industry coming into Western Europe than in Eastern Europe, which is going to be sort of backwards from Western Europe, or more primitive. Art and literature after World War I. Remember, this is the age of anxiety. People just don't know. They can't trust humankind anymore. It could be the end of the world. They'd never seen anything like World War I, the Great War. They'd never seen anything like trench warfare and killing humans on such staggering scales. And their art represented that. This is the rise of Picasso, Surrealism, Cubism. So there are a lot of anxious people out there in literature and art. Remember with globalization that it's breaking down borders, the sharing of cultures. America has a huge footprint on the world. You're going to see McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Chevys and Fords all over the world. You're going to watch American movies all over the world. That's certainly economic globalism there and cultural globalism. Um, Make sure you know Sukarno and the Bandung Conference. Really, it's all about the non-alignment movement, spearheaded by India, but other people have Sukarno himself, of course, is an Indonesian leader, but they are, trying to stay out of the big tussle between the United States and the Soviet Union. Let's see here. All right, make sure you know Tsar Nicholas II's downfall. Remember, he's the last Romanov after 300 years of being in power. Three major downfalls to Tsar Nicholas. The first was Russia losing the Russo-Japanese War. The second was Bloody Sunday, where he fires on the crowd of striking workers. And three was his involvement in World War I. And that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. He is going to be pushed out of power by what will become communists. At the time, they're Bolsheviks and Mensheviks, followers of Vladimir Lenin, of course. And the Tsar and his family will be killed. Lenin is going to rise to power on his land, peace, and bread slogan, which he mostly comes through with. He certainly helps the poor, the working class in the Soviet Union. And just with Tsar Nicholas, the people were tired of the staggering deaths. They lose 7 million people in World War I. They're being sent off to war without any weapons, and they resent that. And so it's going to help lead to his downfall, without a doubt. Vladimir Lenin, had been living in exile in Germany. The Germans sent him back now that they know there's trouble in the politics of the Soviet Union. Of Russia. And so they send him back knowing that he'll just light everything on fire. But he is a follower of Marxism. He's a follower of Karl Marx. He believes in communism. And he's going to rename Russia the Soviet Union. Vietnam, we think of in America as being a war between us and Vietnam, but Vietnam is fighting off many people. In the early 50s, such as 1954, they're fighting off the French. And there are a lot of similarities here. Many French citizens did not feel like Vietnam was a place they should be fighting. So you got a lot of issues there. And really, Vietnam and a lot of these other little conflicts and stuff is really just resistance to imperialism that had gone on with the scramble of Africa and Asia. You have this nationalist sentiments that people want to be their own thing. Vietnam doesn't want to be a colony. They want to be their own country. And they're tired of being a colony. Let's see. So, let's talk just a second about the negative colonial aspects of Africa and Asia. Why are these areas struggling? Why are they behind? Well, a lot of it's because, remember, they're being exploited for their raw resources. They're being used up. There's no investment in the country as far as leadership and schooling goes. They merely want people that can work for low wages in the factories and make the mother countries rich. So the raw materials, when they get their independence, that's really all they know how to do, and that keeps them behind. It keeps them dependent on people. Contraception in the 20th century, 1960, you're going to get a huge game changer, which is the birth control pill in 1960, and it gives women greater control and greater emancipation, greater independence. They can, it leads to a sexual revolution where women can have sex without the fear of getting pregnant. It gives them control over their number of offspring, over their own fertility. Cold War causes, there are several. The free election, the Joseph Stalin not allowing free elections in Poland. You could argue that Cold War started frosty when America wouldn't open a second front to alleviate Soviet losses in World War II. The dropping of the atomic bomb, the subsequent dropping of the Russians' atomic bomb, yeah, all these things. But in reality, it's a basic ideological difference between capitalists and communists who have two different extreme ways of life and doesn't believe that the other one should exist in the world. Great Depression. Great Depression starts in America in 1929, but it spreads to the rest of the world, especially the industrialized nations, especially the nations dependent upon America. Remember the mess where America was basically paying itself off for World War One, right? Well, when America, they're paying Germany, who's going to turn around and pay the payments to Britain and France that it owes them, and Britain and France are going to turn around and take that money and give it right back to America to pay off their loans. So America basically gave everything they gave to Britain and France during World War One for free because we're just paying ourselves with our own money. But what you see as a response, especially in America and these other countries, is a lot more active rollout of the government. In America, you had FDR in his first and second New Deals, freezing prices, controlling businesses to some degree, and trying to form working groups that will help people get jobs. So definitely government taking a much larger, more active role. Let's see. Now eventually China, so here it is. China is controlled by Mao Zedong and communism. But after Mao Zedong leaves in the late 70s there, China makes a switch under Deng Xiaoping, and they open up their economy, bringing a little capitalism to it, and it really kicks off and goes crazy. As compare that to Joseph Stalin, who was leading Russia or the Soviet Union with an iron hand. He's successful in a different way of helping their economy. In the Soviet Union, the government owns everything. They own all the businesses, and they can set quotas that the people have to meet and stuff like that. So, all right, that's your overview of this test. I think if you use this study guide, this test will be very doable. It all exists really within the Cold War theme for the most part, except for globalization. And, well, good luck.